My dear people, the magnitude of the victory signals that there's a widespread and intense desire for change in our country.
We never heard back from any minister of government.
Hey friends and followers in the United States, and to all my Vincentians, dividend St. Vincent, of course, also in the diaspora. Welcome to second episode of our reaction to the swearing in of the new government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I know there are quite a few things that we wanted to touch base on, but we're gonna keep it a little bit brief, a little bit shorter this time. But that would be the first topic, of course, would be the swearing in and your reaction to the swearing in. What are your thoughts on how the actual event was carried out? And because in my opinion, I can't remember ever seeing a swearing in being done like this and on such an official level.
Right. So for those of us that don't know us, I know my husband here has, he really wants to dig into. So I'm Nyla John, and I have two nonprofits that benefit St. Vincent, so Rise, Harun, and Love in SVG, and I'm also a business owner here in Florida. And for 13 years, I've done work for the nonprofit. And my husband, Andre, maybe he can introduce himself, and then we'll dive right in.
Of course, of course. Well, as most Vincentians, you would know me, from representing the country as a tennis player back in the day. But my educational background is actually engineering, in civil and environmental engineering. But today, I've since transitioned to the financial industry. So I am actually a fiduciary investment advisor with offices located here in Sarasota. But of course, I do business in several states, United States as well. And today, my main focus is really educating families, business owners on how to put themselves in a position of ownership when it's beneficial to them, control always, and so that they can have a much better relationship with their money. But I've always had a very strong connection to my home, of course, is where I was born. I haven't lived there since 2001, but always kept my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the country politically, because it's you're my people. No matter where you are, no matter where you go in this world, you're Vinci. So it is what it is. So that's just a little bit about me. But yeah, back to the swearing in.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? How do you think it went?
So I don't ever remember seeing anything like this in the last 25 years or even before. I've always been very politically involved. I think when I moved to St. Vincent as a young girl at 5, I used to go to all the campaigns. They used to have the motorcades. But
Right.
I've never, I don't remember anything of such.
Right.
And so I really want to commend the new administration for the way that they presented it, and they brought every minister in front of everyone. It was televised, and people were invited to it. I think maybe the only thing that I would say that needs to be changed a little bit is where I think everybody should be invited. And when I say everybody, I mean yes, St. Vincent is a Christian nation, but there are other religions there. I know that there's the Rastafarian community,
Yes.
there's the Hindu community, there is the Muslim community. And so I think, the presidents of those entities should have been invited to,
Absolutely.
or their vice president or whoever could, within their executive or their board that can attend it. And then I also believe that NGOs should be invited to this. There's a number of NGOs, and I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw a lot of empty seats. So I think that there should be a little bit greater involvement from a community level, whether that be community organizations that do exist. They should be formally invited to something like
Right.
this. But overall, I think it was an excellent execution.
Right.
And the speeches from Dr. Friday, and and I hope that everyone's going to govern with impartiality.
Right. But one of the things I would like to give credit for, actually, the event, I think it was well executed. there seemed to be a lot of thought. It seems like somebody really put a lot of thought into
Oh, definitely.
how it was going to be executed, and there was some systems in place. Because anytime I look at events, I always look for repetition, right?
Yeah.
Because anytime when there's something or any action or any process that's continually repeated, somebody thought about that.
That's
Somebody
right.
deliberately thought about that, and I like to see that. That's important. And this is actually the first time I'm actually seeing. The last election, I didn't even know that there was a official swearing-in
Yeah.
ceremony for
And
for the ministers. So I'm happy to see that we're doing things on a higher level.
Right.
I'm happy to see that. And obviously, I know beyond that now, once all that's all said and done, it's time to get to work.
That's right.
And it's time to actually get to work and start doing what you need to do to keep the promises that you made to the people. And obviously there's some check marks that we can, some credit that we can give for that as well. There was the VAT-free day. I have it written here. The VAT-free day was announced. I understand that some teachers were reinstated, which is good.
I think the VAT-free day is on
The
the 19th of
yeah,
December.
December
so
19th.
I encourage people to go out and shop.
Yeah, and-
you don't have to pay VAT.
Yeah, get the things that you
That
need.
you need, all your necessities.
Right. Don't necessarily go out there and take a ridiculous loan. And, a lot of people like to do those things around
Right,
at
yeah.
Christmas.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, please. And I heard sometime on the radio, a young lady was saying, we know wealthy people don't spend their own money, they take loans. Well, that's only partially true, That's really only partially true, because
Right.
wealthy people don't just take loans and just buy stuff. Wealthy people take loans to purchase assets, okay?
But I also think
to
wealthy
buy
people are
liabilities.
more conservative with their spending.
Uh-huh.
They don't just spend on every and anything, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
go out and buy your necessities.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, before we forget, no fees. The fees were eliminated, were abolished for community college education, which is absolutely phenomenal, which is great. But going back to your point, I think there has to be a lot more inclusion. We have to have inclusivity if we're going to grow, because we need to have everyone involved. I don't care, regardless to party affiliation. If somebody is doing their job and they're competent, okay, and remember what I'm saying now, okay, doing your job and you're competent.
And I
don't
think we
you
really
should-
need to stress on competency.
Yeah, and I don't think you.
This is one of the things that are lacking tremendously in St. Vincent, which is really unfortunate. I think, the country has just gone through this
Yeah.
excessive brain drain, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's nothing to compare it to. But I have traveled to most of the Caribbean islands. At one point, I lived in Barbados for about 4 years of my life, and it's night and day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our customer service level we really need to up that. And when you walk in May, myself and my board of directors, Janelle Pope and Tyrone Mofford, we went to every government office. We went to every ministry to present our sex offenders registry. And I mean, some of the staff, they were wonderful, and some were just very incompetent. We never heard back from any minister of government.
Wow. That's
No
interesting.
one. And we really took the effort and the time to do this. And
Interesting.
there wasn't one single government minister that responded to us. The only person that saw us was Ralph Gonsalves and the current Prime Minister, which is
Dr.
the Honorable Dr. Godwin Friday.
Yeah.
And so I should commend both of them, and Dr. Friday, he made the promise that he would implement that sex offenders registry. And I know now Laverne has been sworn in as the Minister of Gender Affairs, et cetera, and we would love to be able to have a chat with her about helping them to implement that sex offenders registry. But it was really unfortunate that the past government, that no minister of government ever reached out to us, and we touched all government entities. And I also would like to applaud Jeannie Oliver. She sat with us, and of the Marion House. She's phenomenal, and she took her time to discuss things with us, and we would love to be able to collaborate on things as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on the continued assaults and violence against women in St. Vincent? Seems to be
It's an epidemic.
yeah, an epidemic,
Yeah.
right? At this point, it's just continuously happening over and over and over again.
Yeah, like just
what do
before
we
we
need to
started
do?
this, I just saw that they killed another woman. I think in Layu or something of this nature. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been You know, for the last week or so, there's, 3 murders that are women. And then we have a woman that's missing. She was last seen going to Beckway. And we really need to be able to have a competent commissioner of police. One of the things that I really would like to see moving forward in this new administration is we can't have police investigating police when they commit an act of crime, right? You know, like in the CJ Weeks case, there was many years ago where a police officer was accused of sexually assaulting his own daughter. I believe they flew him out and he's in another country, I think here in the United States. That should never happen. So we need to have an independent criminal complaints department. Canada has it, and I'm sure we can model that.
There's one here too, like there's
Yes.
internal affairs.
That's correct. So we can
police
model,
officers,
you know, that of Canada, because Canada is a commonwealth, so it's the same sort of legislation that governs. So, you know, and this sexual assault, and I'm going to really stress on the sexual assault of our women, the rape, the molestation, the touching of our women when they enter government offices by ministers of government. And hear it, I've never heard it from the other side where a man has been sexually assaulted. But if that is happening from, now we have women ministers of
Yes.
government, you know, we don't want that. We need for our prime minister and our ministers of government to be very respectful. I know that St. Vincent is a society where people hug and touch and so forth, but we have to be careful the way that we do it, right? You have to remember that you're elected by the people, and to touch someone, to sexually assault someone and touch someone inappropriately or to rape them is a criminal offense.
Yeah.
It sits on your books. It's not that, you know, it's not a criminal, it's a criminal offense, right? So why did we allow this for 25 years? Because it did exist under the last administration, and many people are very aware that it existed. And I want to know that when something like this happens, and I pray that it never happens. So I'm appealing to the current ministers of government. Do not assault our women. We need to empower them. We need to uplift them.
Yeah. Because
You know-
we all have mothers, you know.
Yeah,
we all have
definitely,
mothers.
definitely.
Many of us have sisters. You know, we have family members. I mean, we
Yeah.
all come from a mother. So the reality, it's really important, and it touches every single person. I think everybody, especially men in the community, should really take a bold stance against
Yes.
violence against women. You know, against this type of behavior. You know,
Yeah,
we can't continue
can't
to
continue,
promote this
you know.
kind of behavior
No,
and
it's not
allow
acceptable.
people, right, and allow
Yeah.
people in our communities to get away with this and feel comfortable being in our communities after having done these things.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. And
So-
you know, and you know, I remember one time, you know, I spent an entire day with Sir James Mitchell. You know, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. And you know, he said, Nala, I never used my power and my ministry, my office, to sexually assault. I never used it to do that.
Right.
He said there was this lady that used to come and sit at his office, and every time the secretary would ask her why she didn't have an explanation as to why she wanted to see him. So finally he said he decided to see her, and when she entered his office, she told him that she had a liking for him. And he says, I'm really sorry, but I
Right.
do not use the people's office to
Right.
engage in relationships.
Exactly.
Right? My office is not used for that. I'm here to serve my people. And it was so refreshing. And I mean, I think I spent, Sir James and I, we were together from about, you know, I think it was about 3 that afternoon until 12 at night. We were at Mac's Pizzeria. We
Right.
sat there and chatted, and you know, it was so, you know, it was just, I don't even have words to describe what I want to say, but I felt so safe with him, you know. My grandfather and him were very good friends. My grandfather was actually the one who went to Beckway with two other guys who got him to form the NDP. They went in a fishing boat many years ago when the opposition was not functioning. So they were very, very close. And so, you know, we must feel comfortable with our ministers of government and our prime minister. I know that, you know, there's been occasions where people were scared to go to some of these ministries on their own, women.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, I never felt scared because I think maybe they knew what I do and my work and so forth. But we shouldn't be doing that. And we need to know that when someone comes and makes a complaint against a government minister, or if it ever happens, that the Minister of National Security, which is Uncle Sinclair Leacock, that he will do the right thing. And that the commissioner
shout out to Major.
Yes, shout out to Major. That he would do the right thing. That he would, you know, arrest this person and charge them and let them face the court of law. Let them clear their name, right? If there is enough evidence for that. And I would also really, I mean, right now if you want to bring a criminal complaint against someone, you need a fiat. We need to remove this. This needs to be removed, right? We need to remove that fiat because we need to start protecting our women and our children, because unfortunately a lot of kids have been abused by some of these government ministers.
So isn't it true to say also...
Sorry, these past government ministers.
But isn't it also true to say that a lot of the women that you see involved being abused in these circumstances come from either a broken home, or they don't have that structure or that support mechanism behind them, right? For example, you know, if somebody comes from a home where there's both mother and father, you know, I mean, and I'll say this, I'll sum this up with a story. There's a guy who, I was looking at a documentary one time, and I guess I told you about this, and a guy came out of jail, and he said he met a guy in jail who was, you know, locked up for rape and pedophilia and all these things. And the guy told him the first thing he did when he was stalking his victims was he followed them to their home to see if there was a father present.
That's right.
You heard that? This guy was in jail for raping and pedophilia, and the first thing that he looked for was to see if there was a father, because you know there's a certain level of defense that comes naturally.
That's correct.
With when a father is around,
Yeah.
right? Especially when it comes to a daughter. Okay, so if you don't have that in our society, that's why we have so much work to do to reconstruct the family unit and reconstruct, you know,
it's a foundation. It's a foundation of a
moral
successful
standards.
society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
because
and I think we need to start encouraging that we need to have mother and father present.
Yeah.
You know, that I encourage the institution of marriage, you know, and functioning marriages. So not just I am married to someone, but, you know, a marriage that works, right? I mean, Andre and I have been married now for 9 years. Yes, I do get mad at him sometimes, and he gets mad at me.
Listen,
that's part of life. But you need to have that foundation, so that from that foundation, and I think I heard Major speak of this, Uncle Sinclair, where he spoke about, you know, that having that family unit. You know, it's very, very important.
Yeah.
And you can see the product of people that, you know, the product of people who come from solid family, you know, foundations.
Yeah.
You know, so women and men, let us start, you know, encouraging that and start changing our society.
Right.
Right. We
again,
really truly need to.
Listen, marriage is difficult. It's work. Okay, it's work. So nobody, and I always say this, right? If you never get mad in a marriage, somebody's lying.
That's right.
There's no way you could be married and never get mad, never have a fight. That somebody is lying to you, okay? And that probably is not going to work out, because there's no way, if you're actually being yourself, you can just never get
Right.
There's sometimes people, your spouse is going to get on your nerves. You know, things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But is now, what are the skills you've developed over the years to now learn how to deal with that, learn how to better communicate your emotions, learn how to better communicate when you're feeling stressed or anger. How do you really put things in? My uncle used to always tell me, Andre, you got to put things in perspective.
That's right. That's right.
Uncle Reggie, shout out to Uncle Reggie too, Reginald. Because yes, he's like a father to me, right?
Yeah,
so I
that's right.
didn't, so I didn't. If you know me, I didn't grow up with my mother or father. Really, my mother came to the States, to study and improve herself, but my father was doing his thing, right? So I grew up with my aunts and my uncles, Auntie Ann, Auntie Reen. Shout out to my family back home too, Uncle Michael, everybody, love you guys, right? So, that's just what it is, right? Your family unit is important,
Very important.
but you got to learn to put things in perspective and learn how to develop the skills
Yes.
to be able to function in a civil society.
That's
And
correct.
because when you go out in society, not only are you representing yourself, but you're representing your family too.
That's right.
You're representing a whole line of people behind you, right? Who not only want the best for you, but they want to see you progress and move further than they have ever gone. Okay?
Yes.
So that's one of the things that I always kept with me when I went out in the street or when I represented the country. Not only are you representing the country, you're representing yourself, your family, and everybody who's proud of you and who wants to see you do well. So those are some of the things I really wanted to touch, but I'm happy that the event was done, the swearing
Oh,
in.
yeah.
It was done. I think it was done professionally. It was done at a high level.
Yes.
And but of course there's still a lot of work to do, and to really bring our country back. And I'm really, really anxious to see what the ministers have found out. I saw some pictures online. These guys going through some paperwork, like they're looking like they're so surprised, like so I want to know. So
Yeah, we would like to know.
I would like to know
The public would like to know
what the
you
state
guys
of the
found.
nation.
What's the state of,
What-
of this country,
What
right?
is the state of the nation?
Yeah,
What does the
yeah.
paperwork say? I would really, really, really love to know what's going on and really
Well, we need
figure
the
out.
forensic audit. We
Yeah, well,
definitely need the forensic audit.
Well, of course you're gonna have to.
That is something that the current government would have promised when they were, campaigning. And so we need
Yeah.
the forensic audit. And then there's just one more thing that I would like to add, and then we can
Sure.
close this. But I would like to add that we really need to change the age of consent. The age of
Yeah.
consent in St. Vincent is 15 years old. We have advocated for many, many years for that age of consent to move from 15 to 18 years old. And we have done several surveys, and most of the population, I think it's an overwhelming 98.8% that wants the age of consent
Really?
to go from 15 to 18. And I know some people would argue, I know that when I sat with the opposition leader, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, he said that many people didn't want that.
Right.
But I said to him, he said, what about if there was, close, a 15-year-old with an 18-year-old, or, a 16-year-old with an 18-year-old? I
Right.
said, well, you just have a close in proximity, a Romeo and Juliet clause.
Yeah.
Many jurisdictions, Commonwealth jurisdictions have it, Canada has it, and it works. And so, then that person, doesn't get put on a sex offenders registry. It's not criminalized. And so I think that the people want that, and we should really look at the legislation and see how we can amend it, because you can legally work at 18 and legally vote at 18 years old. So why is our age of consent at 15? There's way
Yeah.
too many young girls who are pregnant,
Right.
and we don't know who their fathers are, and it's a whole breakdown of society. So I really would love for this administration to truly address the social ills
Right.
that the country is facing. You guys have a lot of work ahead, and please be inclusive.
Yeah.
If someone is competent, regardless of who they
Yeah.
support,
Absolutely.
I believe
Absolutely.
that once they're executing
Yeah.
on their duties, let them be.
Yeah.
Right?
But we need people to be productive. We need people to work and do the things that they're supposed to do. If there's a function that you're supposed to do, if something is supposed to take an hour, it shouldn't be taking 3, 4, 5, 6 days,
Yeah.
or even more, because
Yeah.
somebody is not doing what they're supposed to do. But to jump back to the social ills, because everything is connected.
Right.
So the social ills also going to have been creating a lot of financial problems, a lot
Yeah.
of economic ills.
It impacts
And
the economy.
of course.
100%.
And so when you have mothers who are pregnant and they're not able to work, and first of all, they don't have a sufficient level of financial literacy.
That's correct.
I mean, financial literacy and the lack thereof is a huge problem. Not
Yes.
only in St. Vincent, but here in the United States, too, almost everywhere. People need.
I think there should be
people-
financial literacy in the schools. We
Oh,
should
I
start
mean,
them
come
at a young
on.
age.
Come on. There's certain things that I learned after starting my business in the I mean, quite honestly, if I didn't start a business in the financial industry, I would not know half of the things that I know now.
Yeah.
Because I had 2 engineering degrees, and I still didn't know a lot about money. I just knew
Right.
about engineering.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, I use money every day.
Well,
Everybody uses money every day.
every day.
So why aren't we educating people about the basics? You know, simple things like the rule of 72. What is that? How to utilize a credit card, understanding a mortgage, those kind of things. Credit, how to use a credit card. Okay, people need to understand what is the purpose of money in the first place.
Yes.
Okay, and how do I make this thing work for me? You
Right.
know, so financial literacy, I think, is going to be another important component with the education. You know, the whatever educational programs we implement.
So that would be Philip Jackson.
Yes, and Laverne.
Yeah,
Okay.
as Philip and Laverne.
And
Well,
Laverne.
actually, congratulations to you both.
Yeah.
And let me say, you know, I think there's something that you guys should never repeat. You know, I remember that people used to always say that Camilo Gonsalves never answered his phone or responded to
Right.
people's emails or messages.
Yeah.
Please, I beg all of you, please don't do that.
Yeah, there's
You
a
know,
certain
make
level
sure
of
that you
responsiveness.
You need to
Yeah.
respond to people. It's
Yeah.
very, very important.
Yeah, because you know that's one of the problems. One of the reasons why the ULP was asking, had to beg, and Ralph had to literally
Right.
beg.
Yeah,
I
it
felt
was
bad
because
for
of
him.
that,
It's because
right?
of that,
Yeah.
right? They're not responsive until election time.
But I will
Right?
say that Ralph Gonsalves is very responsive.
Well, yeah, I
if
know.
you call
yeah,
him or
yeah.
if you text him or
Yeah.
you email
Yeah.
him,
Yeah,
he's
I
very
most of-
responsive.
yeah.
And also Dr. Friday, very responsive.
Yeah.
So
Well,
the
I-
rest, ministers of government,
Yeah.
please don't repeat
Yeah.
what some of the past ministers of government have done.
Right, exactly. And with that, I think, you know, I want to give my, you know, my salutations to, you know, the NDP. You know, congratulations for winning. And also, I wanted to recognize Dr. Godwin Friday for being the bigger person, because even in his speech, even though Ralph didn't congratulate him, he congratulated Ralph.
He did.
In his speech, you know. So I noticed that, you know, so it's a big deal when somebody decides to, you know, be the bigger person, because we rarely see that.
Yes.
We very rarely see that, and I want to congratulate him for doing that, and congratulate the rest of the individuals on the NDP side for you know, for their victory. And also, you know, kudos to those on the ULP side as well, who fought their hardest and you know, tried to represent themselves in the best way they thought possible. But of course, at the end of it, you know, to the victor goes the spoils. Somebody has to win.
Somebody has to win and someone
Yeah.
has to lose.
You know, so thank you guys for stopping in on our conversation today. If there are any comments, of course, you know, feel free. We've been receiving a lot of comments from the last videos. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the love and for for interacting and engaging, because I love that, and I've been trying my best to answer all the comments as they come in. But of course, I wouldn't be able to answer every single comment. So please don't be mad at me if I didn't get to your comment. But I promise you, we'll do our best to respond and to answer any questions you may have. And of course, below this video, I'm going to leave some links to some free information if you're interested in learning more about financial literacy and taking yourself to the next level in terms of your personal finance. Especially if you're living in the United States, feel free to click on those links below this video. If you're looking at this on YouTube or on Facebook, I'll leave that information there. Or if you could, on Facebook, send me a message directly. I'll be reaching out to you as well. Okay? Anything? Any last words?
Yeah, you know, we're decided to start this series, so we'll be having more episodes. So look out for us, and you know, we really want everyone to be. We really would love for the government to involve everyone in their decision making, and you know, to be able to help to develop the country.
Yeah.
But I want to congratulate all the ministers of government and the entire NDP team, and I'm really happy to see that they wore neutral colors.
Right.
I think some people kind of wore the colors of the flag. I think Shavern did. She
Right.
looked gorgeous. Shavern, you did such a wonderful job. You're such a beautiful human being, and you know, congratulations to all the people that helped them.
Right. Yep. So until next time, feel free to reach out to us, interact in the comments, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.